And good day. It's Mike from Flex Radio, and it's Friday. And today we're going to be live like usual. I've got JP joining me from Texas, and I've got Tim, Whiskey Four Tango, Mike Echo. I'm sure some of you have talked to Tim in our support department
Hi
on
there.
the phone or whatever. The king of Team Viewer at times, I'm sure. And can put my headphones on. And JP, over to you. Say good afternoon.
I'm going to say, hey, y'all. Hello, y'all. So, in a very techy way, How's everybody going? Everything's fine with you? Had a good week? Mike?
It's been a fun week.
Fun week, right?
No comment.
Well, we're back in the game. We're doing the live stream, so
we're back in the game. I sat through Contest University yesterday, and that's if you didn't see that and you're a ham, even if you're just a contester or a rag chewer, that's certainly worth listening to and watching. And there's a lot of good data. I learned so much on lightning protection. I'm just, I've got a lot of work to do with bonding the tower and multiple lightning rods. I learned something about old-fashioned serial ports, which are fortunately not the same issue in the Flex world, but I thought that was quite interesting. And I learned a whole lot about receiving antennas. And I would, I'm going to invest more time in receiving antennas because the more you can hear, the more you can work. And I was blown away by some of the antenna designs. JP, so I know in your spare time this weekend, you're going to go watch all that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. There's a lot of people joining. Hello, everyone that it's joining here on YouTube Live. We have Whiskey Bravo 8, Charlie, X-Ray, Oscar, Richard. We have Ken and Jim. Hello, everybody. Hero, Soledad. So yeah, I'm going to mention something about receiving antennas, especially for FT8. I've been playing around a little bit with, well, basically my station in my station here, I have a vertical monoband for 10 meters, and then I have a G5 RV. And every time that I want to jump into 15 meters, the vertical monoband, it's kind of deaf. Like it's a problem that I have with that antenna. So I found out that just with a simple click, it's very easy to click, I can switch in between my transmit and receiving antennas. And that made a difference because now I'm transmitting with my vertical and I'm receiving with my G5 RV. And it made, the low noise, the noise floor is completely different. I can actually hear stations now. So it's a really easy tip/trick for FT8 users that just switch.
Sometimes your transmitting antenna is not your best receiving antenna.
Exactly.
Right, Tim? You've seen that, I'm sure, more than once.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. And I asked my friends, my Lima uniform friends that I have in Argentina, hey, hi guys, how do you deal with this? And they can't really do it because, they don't have the ability to switch in between antennas if you don't have a flex. So that's kind of a pretty interesting feature for flex users. The ability to switch on antennas like very easily within the same frequency that you're using. So that's kind of a pretty cool, neat feature that I found this week. So as soon as I get more of this little tips or tricks, I'm very into digital modes, so don't hate me, but that's me. I'm very much into FT8 and FT4. So
JP, I'll give you the biggest trick and tip for digital modes.
Please, Tim.
It's really simple. It's 4 letters and 1 character.
I'm scared.
AGC-T.
Yeah.
Please enlighten us. There's so many people listening right now.
so the AGC in SmartSDR is a dual attack AGC, and the AGC threshold or AGC-T sets the maximum gain that the AGC algorithm uses for amplifying weak signals. And so with digital modes, particularly with signals that you're wanting to hear near the noise floor, you want to set the AGC-T so that you're not amplifying band noise, so that you're just amplifying signal. And you do this by finding a clear spot on the band and start with either a high or low AGCT. It doesn't really matter. I normally start low because for me it's easier to hear. But you start low and you start basically increasing the AGCT until you start to hear an increase in noise. And so that's the point where the AGC is amplifying the band noise. And so you back it off just a little bit. Sometimes you have to compensate with your volume or gain to compensate. But then you retune back into where your signals are. And at this configuration, you're at what they call the sweet spot. And this is where any signal that's coming that is right at the noise floor will be amplified by the AGC, but the noise itself will not. And this is essentially how you pull weak signals out of the noise. Rather digital modes, you can use this on CW for sideband because it's such a wide signal. You do get some benefit from doing this. But not quite as much as you do with CW and digital modes.
Remember, Tim, in the earlier days of the Alpha Group, a long time ago, these guys like myself would get on 160, then they'd be working into Eastern Europe on an inverted L or something, and go, I hear all these guys out in far ends of Russia and everything on 160, and I call them, and they don't call me back, and so I'd email them and find out they're using like an FT897 or something, and their front end just doesn't handle it like we do, and so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was going to say one of the old adage has been if you can hear them, you can work them, and that doesn't work anymore because I can hear things that now where people even running 1,000 watts, they're not able to hear me. So we've kind of inverted that, kind of flipped it on its head. So the ideal scenario, PGXL. Flex 6000. That's it.
And now that we're talking about PGXLs, it's good for people to know that we have previously loved PGXLs amplifiers for $300 off in our website right now. So that's a pretty good deal.
They're a separate cart item, JP. They're under pre-loved. Is that
exactly? Yes. Okay. You go to flexradio.com. Then you go to the pre-loved section and you will find the pre-loved amplifiers. And remember, we also have financing options for you. If you want to make a down payment for the amplifier or you just want to finance the entire amplifier, that's a really good thing to do. And PayPal is offering PayPal credit. And if you sign up with that, they're offering 6 months without an interest, 0 interest for 6 months. So you can pay it off.
Not a bad deal.
Not a bad deal. Not a bad deal. So if you have any particular questions or you just want to know more about the AMP or our financing options, remember sales@flexradio.com. That email will come to me. And well, mostly everybody in sales, but I'm going to be the one who's going to answer that email. And sometimes Mike helps me a lot. Thank you, Mike, for all the help in the sales department.
You're more than welcome. So what else have you got on sale?
Well, this week we started with the Dayton sales. So we have reduced pricing for all our radios. I encourage people to go to our website and check the discounted prices we're having on the radios. This sale is going to go until Memorial Day. So I think it's a great time to shop for new radios, get an amp, and get on the air, and use Tim's tip about the AGCT. The right way to test that out is with a really nice.
There's actually a really good article in our help desk. If you go to the help desk and just search on AGC-T, it'll basically describe to you how to optimize the AGC algorithm in the radio for optimal reception.
Perfect.
If you can't find it, just email us. We'll be happy to point you out to it.
Yeah, I'll do it tonight. I have my 3 bands here. I'm working 10 meters, 20 meters, and 40 meters at the same time. Yeah, I'm crazy. You don't do that. Yes, I do that. I'm sorry. But I'll play around with the game tonight, Tim, and I'll let you know. I'll let everybody know, actually.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. And then, so what else? Do we have? Okay, I'm going to get stuck with this because I should know. Do we have free shipping for Dayton?
We do have free shipping
We do
on all
now.
our radios. Yeah, yes. Even for the amplifier, we can get you that one. Free
So-
shipping. Yeah,
That's impressive.
yeah. Do you want one, Tim?
'Cause-
I have
'cause it-
one for you right here.
No, I've already got one, but I was going to say.
Oh, well, you can have two.
At 46 pounds, that's a deal.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is a deal. And actually, I want to talk about Tim's PGXL because I know he's only got 120 volts in his shack, right?
That's correct.
Oh,
And what's that give you for power out when you want?
So on 6 meters with about a 24 watt drive, I'm getting 720, 730 watts. On HF, a little lower, I'm getting a little over 800. So, I mean, even at a 110 volt service, it's only drawing, like 9 amps on the circuit. So, it's not like all the lights dim when you key the amp up or anything.
Darn, that's
But-
perfect.
Yeah, but I was going to say it works really well. I get those the first 9 dB out of the increase out of the amp, and that's been doing me fine. I checked my numbers on Loda yesterday, and I'm up to 310 grids on 6 meters, and that's only in the last 2 years. So,
nice.
and there was a nice opening into the Caribbean earlier this week, and was able to add 3 more countries to the list. So,
Okay. I'm going to put something up here because, the designer of the amp, Renko, he's actually listening here. So he's texted me. He goes, it's not 46 pounds. It's actually a little lighter. So
the shipping weight is 46 pounds.
yeah. I thought it was 43 or 46. I think it actually weighs 38 right out of the box. So, and so that's good.
I want to add to what Tim said that the very first day that I got the amp here, I had 110 volts here in my shack. So I tested out on 40 meters and I could pull out almost 900 watts on 40 meters.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
I
and
was
Jim
like-
Campbell, who just asked, it is dual voltage. You just feed it anything about between 110 and 240, and it just works.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
that's good.
And it's a 50 volt, off the top of my head, 50 amp switching power supply in there. So they're pretty they're adjustable on their own. So it's gone are the days where you had to pop the cover off the amp. Tim knows these ones well,
Yes.
right? And
Change
then
jumpers.
look at the chart, change the jumpers, and hope you got it right. You're gonna
Or-
plug it in now,
or rewire the transformer. The
Yeah.
taps on the transformer.
Mhm.
or plug it into the dryer outlet. I'm
Yeah.
guilty of that in a contest too. So
Yeah, I'm looking at my SV200 sitting on the floor. Poor guy. I'm sorry. I felt so bad when I took it out and I put the PGXL on top of on the place on the bench and was like, well, that's
Yeah.
progress,
well,
Yeah.
there's a use for those. One of the guys yesterday, and I forgot who was speaking, said he took 5 SP200s and made one for 80, one for 40, or one for every band. And then when a contest came on, he powered them all up, and every time he switched bands, he was on a different amp, but it was already pre-tuned. So
That's one way
Now-
of doing it.
the PGXL is probably just as fast, and if not quicker, because you can band switch in milliseconds. So
Yeah.
it's pretty slick.
Yeah, and
All right.
it's RF
Go ahead.
sensitive, right? Sorry, that's the last thing about the PGXL. It's RF sensitive, right?
Yeah, it'll do
Yes,
RF
RF.
sensing.
Yeah. So you can drop it down on your desk. You can plug it in the wall. You can hook up the RF cable. You can hook up an RCA cable if you're on a non-flex radio. It's low voltage switching, so you don't need a switching MFJ thingy or build your own.
Buffer, yeah.
And it just works. When you tie this with a flex radio, it's like a 1500 watt radio because it's fully integrated. And this is the wonderful thing about that I have loved as an integrator is we still emulate RS-232 and CAT, and if you're old enough, you know what I mean. And this allows many things to talk to the radio at one given time. And we'll talk about more of that in a future episode, how you can not just be stuck running my logging program. And how do I get WSJT working at the same time? That's all integrated now with things like SliceMaster. It makes it pretty straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to move on. And we came out with 312 this week. And we had to pull all the previous versions. And this is not a trivial decision. This was a very significant and well-discussed pros and cons and risks and everything. So Tim and Ken and Eric and a bunch of other guys are certainly well aware of some concerns people have had and the reason. And so we're going to put Tim in the hot seat a little bit and maybe just elaborate on first why we had to make this move.
All right. Well, the first thing I'd like to say is this web broadcast is brought to you by Burger King. So what essentially is what had happened is that over the last couple of releases with 3.0 and all of the fixes that are in the latter portions of 3.0 are also in the later versions of 2.x. We had inadvertently introduced a couple of defects, and there was a couple of them that were fairly serious, and one of them was that the mechanism that we write data to the SD card, which is the little memory card that lives in the radio that holds the firmware, that holds all your profiles, where all that storage happens. Yes, that little gizmo right there that Mike has. The card would get write corruption on it, and then as a consequence, if you tried to read the card where the corruption was, all sorts of strange things could happen. Best case scenario is you'd lose some profiles. Worst case scenario is radio won't boot, which is a very bad thing. And so if you've been kind of watching our forums and stuff, you see that we've been as we were debugging this problem and everything, we were very reactive to people who were having problems, and we would send out replacement SD cards so that they could get their radios back on the air.
Now we even blame the vendor.
Yes, yeah.
Which we ultimately,
we eventually blamed the vendor for this problem because we would have cards that would work just fine. We'd have cards that wouldn't work fine. We thought we had bad cards in a batch. We had our vendor test the cards. They actually found through their secondary testing, they actually did find a problem with some of their newer cards, but it wasn't our problem. But so we helped out somebody. But through our efforts, our engineering team actually did find the issue, and anytime you're fixing bugs in software, you have to find root cause, and as soon as you find root cause, it's very simple to find the fix. And so we did the fix. We rolled that out to our alpha team, to some other members. We beat this thing up pretty heavy duty because we wanted to make sure that it worked well, and it did. And so there was a big push to get this fix out into the field and into as many people's hands as possible. And so we initially did that with the 3.111 release, which came out a week ago yesterday. And once the 3.111 release came out, the SD card problem was fixed, but we had inadvertently introduced a problem with the licensing mechanism within the radio. So once a new card was installed, the radio would not get a license, and we had to go do some other kind of things. And again, our engineering team jumped into it, figured out what the problem was, fixed it. We went through a kind of a crash testing program over the weekend and earlier this week to get the software ready. And so we released it on Thursday, the 2.6.2 and the 3.1.12, and so far it's worked out really well. There have been a couple of people that when they were doing the upgrade, their cards had been compromised previously, and the upgrade process did fail them. And we've been real responsive. We're getting cards out to those people. The new cards have the brand new software on them, so they don't have to do firmware uploads or downloads. If you've got a 2.x version or a 3.x version, we're sending you the right software on the card to get you up and running faster. But there was a discussion that we had fixed this critical issue within the radio, and one of the things that we didn't want to have happen is you load the new software, everything's working fine, and then you inadvertently load an old version. You load a 3.1.8 or a 3.0.27 or something like that that's got the bad code in it that could potentially cause another bad write to your card. And then you could upgrade to the newer version, but you've already done the damage. And so we didn't want this reciprocal kind of process happening all the time. because it does negatively affect the user experience. And so we made a decision to essentially to limit or minimize the ability to run previous versions of software. And we do realize that this has caused some problems for some people who are operating remote and do not have the ability to log into a PC on the LAN to be able to do the upgrades, because we don't do firmware updates over a SmartLink connection. And we're discussing this. We're going to try to find a happy medium to try to get you guys going. But essentially, that's kind of where we are with this. We highly encourage everybody to upgrade to 3.1.12 or 2.6.2 at your earliest convenience. And before somebody pops up the message, and I'll go ahead and say this, there's a lot of users that have reverted back and are using the old 2.4.9 version because it provides them a better operating experience for certain things like using the ATU and CW. And we are coming out with a 2.4.9 version that is going to have all of the recent performance and enhancement and stability fixes in them, and we're working on that now. We should have that out shortly. So when we get that out, it'll be like a 2.4.10 or 2.4.11. Just depends on how many cycles it has to go through the alpha testing. And at that point, then anybody who's running 2.4.9, we're going to encourage you to upgrade to the new 2.4 version, and then that should get us back to a point where your radios are stable and happy, and you can use them and don't have to worry about them not turning on, and we can get the engineering guys back focused on doing features and other bug updates and things of that nature. So that's kind of where we are at.
So Tim, I'm going to ask this because I've been asked this a couple of times. How confident we got this one nailed?
99.999999999%.
Wow.
In talking to Eric, I know we had a significant number of utilities running that were beating the crap out of cards, and we could get a card to fail in about a day or two.
Yeah. So what we were doing is the cards that we use in the radio, they are industrial strength SD cards, and they are rated for tens of thousands of what they call array cycles, which essentially is a read-write cycle on an SD card cell. And so we have a setup where we essentially will write to every cell in the card, write it, read it to verify it, and then overwrite it and read it again. And we do that constantly over and over and over and over and over again. And with the older software, the cards that we were using, like Mike said, we could get the thing to fail within 24 hours. And when we finally found root cause of this and fixed it, we slapped a card in and we ran it for like a week and a half to make it, to be sure that what we had done, it had fixed it. And so the confidence level here that we have is incredibly high. I'd say 100%, but in software programming, there's no such thing as actual 100%, but we're as close as you can get.
Right. Well, somebody else asked a question here, and I'll just talk about it. It was a concern about cost and licensing. And if you're on version 2, you are forever on version 2. You can run version 2 for the rest of whatever. It never expires.
Correct.
You only need to pay for an upgrade if you're going to version 3 or the next major version change. So and that's why we're going to go back, because we really do want to make sure we fix it for those version 2.49 guys and stuff. So and we're aware of why you're there, so that's good.
Yeah, I was going to say we'll eventually get to the point where there's going to be a new 2 version or a new 3 version that's going to resolve those issues, and you won't have to use the 2.4.9 series. Perfect.
Good. Anything else, Tim, you want to add? We've got a few more minutes left.
Well, I was going to say, it's I enjoy interfacing with everybody who comes through the help desk and things of that nature. I get a lot of satisfaction out of answering you guys' questions and helping you when you get your problems. So thanks for using the help desk, and don't hesitate to reach out to us if you need any assistance.
Yeah,
And they can do it.
I was going to say, Tim and I jump in on a couple of communities in the Facebook as well, and sometimes you might get what may be considered a little briefer answer, but it's only because we're trying to do 17 things at once. We're trying to get you some facts, but feel free to ask questions. If you didn't like what you get, send us an email, ask for clarification. We get it. It's sometimes we're in that boat too with the things we deal with. So
yeah.
And sometimes I get this the other day. Goes, why does he keep asking me these basic questions? Somebody phoned me. I went, well, because we know the 19 different ways you got to where you are now. We want to know how you got there so we can back you out of it. So we always have to go back to the beginning to make sure that something obvious wasn't part of the problem, right?
Yeah. And I was going to say, 50% of the time it's something simple. It truly is. It's it's the I didn't switch my antenna switch, or something of that nature. But sometimes it's not, and I know that it can seem frustrating going through the process and everything. But there is a method to the madness, and there's a lot of times where we don't tell you what we're thinking about. That could be possibly the problem, and part of that is because we don't want to bias your answers with what we assume might be happening. And so we, like I said, between Ken and I, we've seen just about everything. So we can usually figure it out.
Yeah, I was helping these guys. We got a minute. This is sort of a funny story. The tech guys will understand this. I had a guy early in my first months here where his radio wouldn't connect to SmartLink, I think when SmartLink first came out. And I spent hours on the phone with the guy trying to understand what was going on and what was cabled the right way. He's the only person I've ever talked to that had a cable modem and a cable plugged into the laptop. He didn't have a router, a switch or anything. And of course, when I had him move the cable to something else, everything fell apart. And so he didn't have anything. And of course, it's not anything I would have ever thought in today's world that, but as somebody new to the internet and just wanted a laptop that needed to get on to do whatever you want to do online, that's exactly all they needed. Right.
Yeah.
One of the few people anyway, but that took me long time to figure out, so we apologize for the silly questions, and we're good. Well, thanks, Tim, for your time. I was
going to say it's been a pleasure. I'm glad you had me on. Hopefully you'll invite me back one day.
Right. Well, we'll have you back. Another question is, yes, this is recorded in 2 places. I think when I hit stop, you can watch it on Facebook, and it's also on Facebook Live in our YouTube channel. Search for Flex Radio, and you'll see it there. And JP, where else is it?
Periscope.
Periscope.
Yep.
And
we're missing Instagram. We should be on Instagram.
Well, I have a media guy, so he's going to help me with that. Kilo Golf 5 Zulu Bravo.
You need to that guy. I don't know. It's a good dude.
I'm the old guy here. Okay.
No, nothing is all. Nothing is
much.
all. Everything is experience. Okay.
All right.
No.
Ladies, gentlemen, have a great weekend. It's Hamvention Virtual Weekend. There's a bunch of ham radio podcasts coming up next weekend, which I'm part of.
You want to mention them?
I got to look them up. So there's the YouTubers one. And I should have pulled that all out, but that's next weekend. So we'll talk about that next Friday. Mm-hmm. Don't forget, there's the Hamvention Hamvention contest on tomorrow. I think it's all modes, all bands. Post your score on 3830scores.com. And if you Google it, you can find it. And that's all I got. JP?
All right.
You name it all, Mike. Everything. You covered it all. Very good.
Ladies, gentlemen, kids, children, get on the air. Catch you later. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody on the stream. Bye, Chris. Bye, everybody. Take care. Bye, guys. Take care.